Hey everybody, welcome back to The Way I See It. Let me throw a question out there that might make some of you a little uncomfortable, but then again, that's what this forum is for. My question is, what if we just stopped tipping? Not reduced it, not lowered the percentage. I mean, just completely stopped. No more tip jars, no more automatic gratuity fees, no machines standardizing 18, 20, or 25%. Just eat your meal, pay the bill, and leave. What would actually happen? Because let's be honest here for a moment. The price of going out has I get tongue tied, but it's exploded. It's out of control. That $10 burger that we used to go for lunch with is now 22. And if you add a drink and maybe ask for a salad or fries, all of a sudden with the tip, you're close to $100. And that's lunch by yourself. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty expensive for my own lunch. Last week, the missus and I had a meal downtown. Nice little restaurant, about an hour and 20 minutes. The bill came to $220. 20% tip, that's, $264. $44 goes to the server for an hour and a half. And she's probably got, 5 or 6 tables who are all drinking alcohol, and we weren't that day. That's a lot of money. My real beef is when that funny little machine comes to you for payment. It doesn't ask you if you want to tip. It asks you how much you're going to tip. And that particular machine said 20, 25, or 30%. Like, are those numbers the new normal? 30%? But here's the thing that nobody's really talks about. Why is it that the customer is paying the staff in the first place? When you walk into a restaurant, I'm already overpaying for the price of the food. In most cases, 2 or 3 times what I could buy it in the supermarket for. And that's fine, because I'm assuming that we are paying for a percentage of the rent, percentage of the electricity, I'm paying for the inventory, I'm paying for everything. And logically, shouldn't we also be paying for the staff's wages? I thought that's what the menu price is supposed to be. No, all operating costs. But tipping, well, the tipping culture flips that around. Instead of the business paying its workers, more money, or even properly in some cases, the system quietly asks us, the consumer, to finish the job. And somewhere, somehow along the line, we all just accepted that. The way I see it, tipping wasn't supposed to work like this. The whole original purpose of tipping was very simple. It was to reward great service, or to ensure prompt service. That's what tips means. If the server went above and beyond, well, then you tip generously, and it was up to you to tip. If the service was mediocre, you tipped less. And, heaven forbid, if the service was terrible, well, then you just didn't tip. And that was the feedback loop. That was the accountability. But today, for some weird reason, if you don't tip, people act like you've broken some sort of, social contract. And, heaven forbid, even if the service was slow, or if they got your order wrong, or you waited 45 minutes before you were asked if you wanted water or sparkling, you're still expected to hit that 20% tip button. Why? If tipping is supposed to reward service, then bad service should mean no tip. That's the way I see it. That's the logic of the system, right? Otherwise, it's really not a tip anymore. It's just a mandatory surcharge that no one wants to call a surcharge. But That's what it is. And here's something else that's quietly changed. Tipping used to happen after the experience. Now it happens before the service is even finished. Sometimes before it's even started. That famous restaurant, you order your coffee, you stand in line, the machine is already asking for a tip. A tip for what? Handing me the cup? Come on. And look, this isn't about, this isn't about attacking the service workers. I know lots of service workers, great people. And a lot of people in those jobs, they work incredibly hard. And I could name a few, but I don't think this is the right form. The real question isn't about the worker. It's about the system. Why are workers depending on unpredictable tips in the first place? Why is their income based on, whether or not strangers feel generous that day? And why are the customers expected to make up that difference? I thought that was the employer's job, to pay their employees well, to keep them there and retain their key staff. Think about that. If every customer stopped tipping tomorrow, what would happen? Restaurants would be forced to change, and they'd have to change immediately. They would have to pay higher wages. And yes, maybe the prices would probably go up even more. They might lose workers. They might lose customers. It's a delicate line. They might even have to shut down because they can't figure it out. But it would also mean something, important. The true cost of running a business. That would finally be built into the price of the meal. No guessing, no guilt, no awkward payment screens, just a clear price. In many places, as most of you know, I've traveled around the globe several times. A lot of places around the world, that's how it works. The price you see is the price you pay. Service is included. In fact, some countries, some cities, some towns, they actually frown on tipping. You are, asked to leave. But here in North America, well, and more so specifically here in Ontario, tipping culture has turned into something super strange. Even self-kiosks ask if you want a tip. So, customers are feeling pressured. Workers, on the other hand, they feel dependent. And I guess sometimes they feel awkward asking for the tip. But in some places, even the owners benefit from keeping that system exactly the way it is. Because the whole thing runs on social guilt. You know the moment, The server stands there, hands you the machine is glowing, they're standing right behind my shoulder, and you're thinking, wow, if I don't press tip, I'm going to look terrible, I'm going to feel bad, and they're all going to say I'm a terrible person. Well, that's not generosity, that's pressure. And the more those tip prompts appear everywhere, and I mean everywhere, from coffee shops to takeout stands to even self-serve kiosks, well, the more people are going to start asking the same question. Where does this end? 25% today. That's a normal thing. And tomorrow, what's it going to be? 30, 35%? Now here's the controversial part. At least I think it's controversial. You guys can decide. As the customer, we're the reason the business exists in the first place. Without us, without the customers, there is no restaurant, there is no cafe, there are no service jobs. So maybe the conversation shouldn't be about customers feeling guilty or not, whether they're tipping or not. Maybe, just maybe, the conversation should be about the businesses and the business owner being grateful that customers showed up at all. Because without us, there's nothing to tip. So here's the real question. If tipping is supposed to reward great service, then why are we expected to tip no matter what? I don't know. And if businesses really need that extra 20% to survive, well, why isn't that just included in the price of the food and pay their employees better? So the way I see it, this whole debate really comes down to one simple choice. Either tipping is optional, which means, people should feel comfortable leaving nothing for bad service, or it's actually a mandatory part of the price. And, well, you know the rest. And restaurants should include it on the bill. But under no circumstances, it can't be both. So I'm genuinely curious where you stand on this. When the payment screen pops up, are you team tipping is earned, or are you team just included in the price? I don't know, because more and more people are quietly wondering that same thing. I don't know, what would actually happen if we all just said no more tipping? I'm fed up with this. No more tipping. Let me know in the comments what you think. As always, I hope you subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. I'm Michael Baumler. I'm out.